All right, I'm gonna do some videos. It's been a minute since I put one out. I feel like, even though I know I'm putting out at least 2 to 3 a week, if not more, but I've been working on the Push 3, learning how to use it. This thing is jam-packed with everything and can be really a self-functioning machine, in my opinion, because not only does it have the audio interface, but it also has a USB-C MIDI port here, or a port for you to run and power other units. So I'm powering the this particular device, the Novation Launchkey Mk4, through this, which works great because now the control panel that's here can also activate and control everything over here, from the metronome to the quantize to the play, start, record, etc. And also you do have control over your particular clips that you use in session view. You can also use the sliders, which I don't think you guys can you see the sliders over here? No, you can't. Unfortunately, the camera, if I go too far out, it'll just explode everything up. But anyway, you can use that, and you can use ultimately the keys to play in portions that you prefer to play with keys. And at the same time, you don't have to use it, but you also know inside of the Novation Launchkey that you have the scales feature. So the scales can be used. You can turn the scales on here. It will adjust the scales in here. That's pretty cool. So like, for instance, in here, if I turn on scale, let's go here, you'll see it's set to, I don't know why it always starts that way. I'm going to put it back on C major. Okay, so I think because I saved my template with it on G instead of saving it with on C, and I'm in the chromatic key. Of course, you could go back here if you wanted to not have the other off note keys or whatever. Anywho, that's that. Okay, so let's turn it off. But if you come over here and you decide you want to adjust the scale, you'll see the scales change accordingly. So there's your major, different ones there. And if you want to change your notes, I'm just turning the dials over here. You can turn till you get to where you want. So that's a really cool feature to be able to use it. And if you have the mini, this bigger one is kind of hard to film it. It's hard to, but if you have the mini, it does the same thing. You can turn the scale on and use it and not even have to go into here. So I could turn that off, adjust the scales over here, and be confident that if I adjust the scale, see, it's going to move the scales around. Put this back on C major. And you're playing C1, so they know that this is C1, right? There's the scale. So that's a really cool feature that I like a lot. Also, you can use the drum pads if you choose to. So if you're in like a drum thing here, you can change the function over here and do clip. Well, right now it's set to clip launch, so I could do a clip launch here if I wanted to without having to launch in here. But you could definitely do the drums here if you wanted to. I'd prefer to do drums here. They're way better. But I was just saying that you can do it if you wanted to. Also, let's go to here. And any track you have, like this track, I'm moving this with the faders on this keyboard. Now, all of the keyboards don't have the faders, so you'd have to start. I think the 49 is the only one that has the faders. If you hold down Shift, you can do the smaller increments here and set it back. So to 0, that is. So what else? You can arm and select tracks from this particular one if you wanted to, which is nice. The macros, same principle with the macros. I believe you can change. Oh wait, I'm in the scale. I forgot I was in scale for a second here. Well, let me get out of the scale mode. Turn off scales, and you can change. You can see the macros changing, so you could do that in here too, using these, or you can use them up here. This is obviously easier because it's right here. But if you wanted to use the keyboard so you don't burn out your knobs and buttons here, that's kind of a benefit in a way, to have something like this, a little cheaper thing. They won't. And then one of the things I know that's challenging in here, that I find a little bit challenging, let's just go here. There's no clips, but let's say you want to start your clip at the beginning. You have to hit Shift, as far as I know right now, you have to hit Shift play to start the cursor back. So if you play something in and you stop it, you have to hit Shift play to go back to the beginning. Whereas if you have this, if you hit play, you could just hit stop and it'll go back to the beginning. So it's pretty quick. That's another feature I think is really good. I think I put this down. So the only thing with using the keyboard is once you set those faders, and this is true inside of Ableton too, once you set the faders over here, you have to leave them or else it will, and I'm talking about on the keyboard, you'd have to leave them because otherwise if you pull them down, it's going to adjust them back in here. It does the same thing. But if you switch to pan, same principle. I think the knobs work. Let me see. Do the knobs do it? Nope. Faders, no. So the pan is not, I'm not seeing it working in here. I thought the pan would work, but it seems to not. It's just the volume controls that work. Yeah, see now the volume is back to there. So to get it back, I have to go back in here. So that might be something you want to use. I wouldn't per se use it. I would just use it in here. It's much easier. But like I said, the best thing is the controls here, being able to turn off MIDI capture or turn your metronome on and off and quantize and being able to hit record. So for me, this transport is huge. If you could get the transport, this little section here and a little small device that you would have just attached with this, where it could save you really save you from having to deal with constantly pressing the buttons here. I mean, that's neither here or there. It depends on the user, really. For me, the biggest thing is the wheels. I love the pitch bend in here and everything is fine with the strip. The only problem I have is when I need the mod wheel too, you can't have both at the same time because you only got one strip. So you pretty much have to, I would have actually enjoyed if the strips were a little bit shorter to fill in a couple of these buttons that they need to put here, or even put some of the buttons up here and here, and then give me a nice 2 strips right here for mod and pitch. That would have been kind of cool, so I could do some more adjustments. But the benefit is if you have one of these little keyboards, a smaller version of it or something, you could do all your pitch bends from here instead of doing them in here. So I believe if I do this right now, nope. So only when you're in a pitch bend. So let's go with keys. Now it should, it's not doing it. I thought it was doing it a few minutes ago, but yeah, it's not doing it. That's weird. I thought the pitch bends worked. Never mind. Take that back. So the pitch bends, well, at least they don't seem to be working. You don't see them on here like you do when you hit a key. You can see the keys for sure. So I would have to play something to know. Let me load in. I don't have a speaker set up yet because I just wanted to show you what I see so far. But either way, if you have the smaller version of one of these, the Novation Launchkey Mk4, I think it's actually a good piece to pair with this just because of the functionality that you do have. A lot of these buttons are on there. Some of them aren't. I think scale and ARP are on there. You don't have the stop on the smaller version. You only have the play, record. I can't remember if the loop's on there. I'm pretty sure quantize, MIDI capture, and metronome and undo and redo are on there. But the other ones aren't. You lose the faders on there. You lose the wheels, and you end up with just touch strips, which are fine if you're not doing that much of, modulation with that. Then it's perfectly fine. And of course, the keys are those mini keys, so you'd have to get used to that. But other than that, I think it's a great pairing to put with the push if you are not just a pad only person. For me, I can do most things on the pads. I do enjoy the keys for playing chords more than I do the pads. However, it's not impossible to learn the pads. And in fact, if you go to your scale in here and set it back to in key, then you just have to learn like these type of things, right? And here I think is the other one. So, and then you can add in the 7th chords. I think that's the 7ths. Like that. So that's pretty cool. Good features, easy to use. These are probably the best pads I've ever touched or owned or any of that. Like I've tried the MPC stuff. They're good like for drumming, the MPC stuff, but they're really stiff, you know, and you got to really build up your muscles in your fingers to be banging on them stiff pads. But other than that, I think these are still the best pads I've ever touched. These are okay in the controller here, but they're just not as, I don't know, they're just not as well put together as these. Plus the sensitivity in these are insane in comparison. So that being said, I think the Launchkey Mk4 and the Push 3 are a great pairing if you want the best, for Ableton especially, if you want the best combination of a keyboard slash push pads type combination thing. So that's all I have for this video. Stay tuned. I'll tell you more things that I appreciate and like about both of these, or probably more of the push as of recent, because I've done videos on the Launchkey. And I think if you don't have the Launchkey, you're missing out primarily because of the scales that are in here. The scales, features, and the transport features, to me, make this keyboard worth having. The rest of it is just nice to have if you got it. The ARP is really cool in here, but it's not necessary. The fact that you can save chords, we already know. But now there's a thing in here that's going to be on the latest update. It's in beta right now, but that expressive chords, if you get that, this could become somewhat obsolete if you're not looking for these transport. You could, and the faders and all that kind of stuff, you could definitely, and the wheels, you could definitely do it all in here and use one device. So anyway, just my take on it, my thoughts, and we'll see you on the next one.